follow up, follow through, and follow back. And the thought there is follow up is the initial, right? Follow up with whatever you got to do, the lead or whatever it may be. The follow through is, okay, you hang up with that lead or there's things to do, you actually go do it, or you leverage your resources to make it happen, right? And then the follow back, which is one of the most critical pieces and the most missed by a client, is they close the house, they hand the keys, they say goodbye, and guess what? They failed to follow up with that client that would have been a raving fan for life had they just stood by their side.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a very special guest who I actually met for the first time in Cancun at our Play Bigger retreat last December. It's absolutely amazing to watch him grow in such a short period of time. And the way he contributes to our Play Bigger mastermind and the way he shows up for his community, you would have thought that he would have been in business for decades. He has been named Charlotte's, North Carolina's best agent and team for 2 years in a row. And that clearly shows he's got amazing client relationships and community relationships. And I can't wait for us to have this conversation of his white glove service, how to have all the love in your community, and the power of growing with incredible people. Welcome to the show, Joe Carteret.
Thank you. Wow, that was such an intro. I as you started saying all those things, I was like, wow, keep that up. Is everyone listening? No, I'm teasing.
If you ever need to hire a PR person, I gotcha.
Yeah, my love language is words of affirmation. So today we're like checking all the boxes. I'm feeling really good after that.
Well, you should, because what you've built is amazing. All the accolades that you've been able to get in a short period of time. So I want to dive right into it. What do you think motivated you to get into real estate? And then we're going to talk about your journey.
Yeah, like a lot of people that I end up meeting in real estate, I fell into a little bit in tension because you make that choice, right? So my previous life had ended as far as my career, and it was a huge career jump for me. The biggest factor to pull out of that made me make the shift was I needed more freedom. I needed more control over what my life was going to look like day in and day out. My daughter was 4 years old at the time, and I needed to be more present. I was in a job where I was traveling a lot and just not being able to be there like I wanted to. And real estate played all the way back from a little child, a kid. My dad has a real estate broker's license. He's a general contractor by trade and an entrepreneur with several businesses. So I always knew that the freedom that I was chasing was going to be found in being my own boss. And I feel like a lot of people say they want that freedom, but it came down to what is going to get me there and what's something that I know enough to be dangerous, if you will. And so I started looking back, and I came home for the holidays, and my contract in my previous career was ending. And we lived in Texas at the time, in north of Dallas and Frisco. And we always knew we were getting back home to North Carolina because this is home. I'm a native of North Carolina, friends and family, everyone's here. And it was our time to make that happen. And so 2.5 years in Texas, we sold our home there, packed up, moved back, and it was going into Christmas. It was perfect timing. And I went ahead and took the real estate course because I knew real estate enough that I knew there was freedom. I knew that I could chart my own path. And that was going to give me the ultimate freedom that I think a lot of us are chasing.
So you get your real estate license, and because you had somebody else in the business, did you just become successful overnight? What does that really look like? Because everyone goes and gets their real estate license, and the first thing I hear, especially out of a lot of new agents, is I'm going to make 6 figures, I'm going to make 7 figures, but they realize that there's a huge wake-up call of actually building a business.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. I just saw this yesterday. I did not realize Inman Connect was where I saw it. 49% of real estate agents sold one house last year. I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, when you think about, because real estate's not cheap, a lot of people don't realize that to get to where you need to be to really even start transacting, you're probably going to spend $2,500. And that's the basic. That's your licensing and memberships and all that kind of stuff. So out of the gate, you spend $2,500. The week that you go to your new firm to do your onboarding and all that, you've already written that check. And not to mention the 6 months that you really need to have banked when you're going into being a real estate agent, or more, depending on where you are in your lifestyle and that kind of thing. But it definitely wasn't. We so often hear, wow, you're so lucky. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves, but it's also something that fires me up, because I love when people say, wow, you're so lucky. And that translates to real estate, you name it, all kinds of industries, right? The reality is it took a lot of hard work. And that success that we saw, really, as it came, it started to motivate me, because you get a little bit of success and then that drives you to do more because you want to double down on that, right? And so over time, I went to the training at KW, which is where I started my real estate career. I realized it was not for me. I was not going to sit in a classroom for 90 days through all the different phases and all that. And a couple of days into my Ignite, which was my onboarding at the time there, I said, I've got to call people. So I started making random calls. I called a FISBO. It was my very first person that said, yes, come to the house. And that's where it started. But there was a lot of hard work in between that. And then fast forward, as you have gone up until now, every day is a challenge. And we show up every day excited and treat it like a new day. But it's not easy. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people just don't realize.
So well said. And there's definitely not 2 days that are exactly the same. I know, because I've done it for 2 decades and I've never seen it, not once. We all know that real estate is super competitive. It's one thing getting your license and then you get into it and you are calling for sale by owners, you're figuring out your marketing plan, and everyone talks about customer service, especially when they are trying to sell somebody's home, or even when they are trying to help somebody buy a home. It's like, we have the best customer service, but you really actually take it to a high level. What do you think sets you and your team apart when it comes to this customer experience?
Yeah, we're always chasing it, to be honest. I've made personal branding a priority, and I think every real estate agent should. I think it's a mistake that a lot of agents actually make when they start out. We go to whatever brand, fill in the blank, right? And immediately start conforming, and we start trying to use their signage and we use their graphics and all that. And I know why. It's easy. It's already prepared, right? It's the easy route. Totally don't fault anyone. There's a lot of people that do it. But what happens is you don't set yourself apart amongst your colleagues in the market center that you're in, or location. And we quickly made that a priority. We had to make our personal branding where we were going to win. And so when people think about service, we needed to stand out. And that was always a priority for us. And everything that we do, whether it's me personally, it's team members on my team, I make sure their personal brand is the number one priority. Sure, it's the Carteret Group and it's EXP and it's this and that, whatever brand you're with, but it does come down to the client that is going to choose someone is choosing that person for them and their authenticity and who they are, whether they know them through church or sports or whatever it may be. So we had to find a way to set ourselves apart. And so we wanted to come out of the gate strong with personal branding. We wanted people to ride down the road and see our sign and it be different from everyone else. And we were able to just start slow and start making that a priority to where the back end stuff was going to be crystal clear. What we were communicating out to the client, from colors to logos to font, you name it, it was all going to be consistent. And it was all intentional with the client in mind, because we wanted that journey from the first time they saw our name to, years later, to always come back to, oh, I recognize that person, or I recognize that name, or they helped my neighbor. And that drive them to initiate the conversation, or at least be open to it. As far as like how it continues and who we are today, I think if anything, we overanalyze it. We overthink about the level of service that we provide clients, because I think about if my mom was in this situation and she didn't know anyone and she needed to hire a real estate agent, or my grandmother or my father, I would want them to absolutely have the best experience possible. And it's personal. I mean, hell, a lot of times this is the biggest decision in people's lives, financial decision, right? So if I have the responsibility of having that on my shoulders, I'm going to treat it like it's mine, like it's my parents, something like that. And that has done very well for us. We connect very closely to our clients. every single listing appointment we go on, it's more than one person. It's me and my assistant or another agent, because we want to set the tone from day one that, hey, this is why we're different. It's in our marketing. It's in how we show up and our actions, not just us telling you how great we are over the phone to get you to say, yes, come to our house, right?
Is there anything that you guys do special when it comes to when you meet a client, when you're there for a listing appointment, or even in the middle of the transaction, since you're so big on these little touches?
Yeah, sure. It starts with having systems. I'll be the first to admit the timing in which we came into a market that was just 100 miles an hour. And I think a lot of agents, because I've heard this from agents that either I lean into for advice or I support for advice, it's wow, the past couple of years was just, it flew by. And we were literally taking calls, and then we were out there that day to list the house, and we sold it before we got it listed right. There was still a lot of work behind the scenes that I think agents didn't get credit for. But I think we lost our way when it came to the structure and the processes and the way that we are consistent with how we show up. And so for us, it came down to having to have those systems and processes in place. And from the moment that we met somebody, it was speed. It was all about how quickly can we do our due diligence and be there for them, whether it is at Starbucks, it's at church, wherever we met them. We want to give them 100% of ourselves in that moment. And then we ensure every step or every touch point beyond that, all the way into the moment that we have the enormous honor to hand them their keys. We want them to feel like we were a partner. We have example of that is we have a closing gift that we give, and it's a beautiful handmade carving board or a cutting board with nice, thick, and high quality. And we always put our branding on the back. And it's really not about us. It's about being able to, make sure people understand that we're always there. And it's not about more transactions. It's truly, if somebody needs me at 9 p.m. at night and they're a past client of mine, I want them to call me. I want them to rely on me to point them in the right direction to a plumber because they have a leak, or an electrician. And so anyways, a success from that is we get pictures during holidays and birthdays and stuff from our clients where the turkey is on that big cutting board. And that just, it's simple, but they took time out of their day to do that. And that just reassures us that we're doing it for the right reasons and we're doing it the right way.
I absolutely love that. There's nothing when you can create memories and be part of the memories, even after the sale of their home. So, where do you think agents today make the mistake of client experience in a real estate transaction?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is they don't see it through the lens of the client. They are too focused on a commission check, or they're too focused on the factors in their lives, which we all have them, that are driving that kind of panic movement in everything that they do. Hey, I've got to get a check. I've got to be able to make this bill or something like that. And we all have it. And it's very critical, obviously. The problem is in real estate, if you're doing it the right way, you have to still make that a priority because you want to pay your bills, but you have to put that second. And your number one priority is always going to be your client. And so that shifts your mindset. It starts to force you to think about their needs, to think about what would be special to them. When we were riding through the neighborhood and we're under contract on a home that they're super excited about, and they live in California, and we're going to be welcoming them and their entire family, little things like stopping by the house and going in and just getting a little picture update, or doing a little video, or just giving them something that excites them in their day because they've got a lot on their mind and they're working through the process of moving to a whole new state across the country. And little things like that go a long way, and they're important because, again, it eases their mind. They know that you've got their back. And a lot of times I feel that agents they get it locked down, they get that contract in place, and then they wait for someone to tell them what to do. In reality, their clients are waiting on them to be the driver of the train, right? You got to be able to lead from the front. And a lot of times I feel that's what the biggest downfall in an experience. And then the last thing I'll say, and probably one of the most critical, I have a saying, and I will admit I stole it from Ryan Serhant. It's follow up, follow through, and follow back. And the thought there is follow up is the initial, right? Follow up with whatever you got to do, the lead or whatever it may be. The follow through is, okay, you hang up with that lead, or there's things to do, you actually go do it, or you leverage your resources to make it happen, right? And then the follow back, which is one of the most critical pieces and the most missed by a client, is they close the house, they hand the keys, they say goodbye, and guess what? They fail to follow up with that client that would have been a raving fan for life had they just stood by their side. And that's the birthdays, that's the handwritten cards, that's the having a system in place to where you or your team members, your assistant, whatever, sends them a birthday card or sends them a little note on their anniversary and checks in on them. They see things on Facebook that's going on in their lives and they say, hey, I saw you had a loss. What can we do for you? But it's coming from authenticity, but it's things you have to do to get that commitment that you're looking for.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because there is a crazy stat out there. After the transaction closes, there's very few agents in our industry or in most industries, not just in real estate, that actually follow up with the client. And they could have gotten lots of referrals in building longevity in their business, but there was just no proper follow up or follow back in from what you just said.
It's 70 or 80%. It's crazy. They
Yeah.
do not go back to the same agent. And there was never like a big thing that happened. There was never like
They
conflict
love the
between.
agent. Yeah.
It's just in the moment they forgot, and you
Yeah.
don't want to be forgotten.
Let's talk about client events. Is there something that you guys do that is special and unique about your client events?
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we are constantly learning from, because again, with any event, birthdays, people have all kind, right? You learn like, how do we do it? What are the best days, the best times, things like that. But what we've learned is if you just do it, people are going to show up, right? And so I think it's this idea of we all, including us, we have to take a step back and not overcomplicate what that event's going to be. So we have had private events at a cigar lounge that was, we had a private room, very kind of swanky environment. And we invited past clients, kind of our VIP clients, because these are folks that have done multiple transactions or they refer people, things like that. And I think we invited, I don't know, 50 and like 45 showed up, or 42. I mean, amazing numbers for what you learn in this business is a good term. And we had such great conversation. And what was super cool about that is I still have friends of mine that showed up because they were a past client and they talked about somebody they met there. So you're actually being able to help forge other relationships, which means a lot to us. And they're uber critical. This year, how our strategy is changing is we're being a little bit more intentional with a theme so that it connects in a different way. So for example, we have one at the end of the year that's going to be a schools out bash. And so the idea there is that we want to help families transition from being in school and running 100 miles an hour to events and all that kind of stuff to now the kids are out. Let's give something to the kids. Let's do something that's going to be fun. And it's just going to be an outdoor like park setting with the blow up, the popcorn, the movie night, just something to just chill and hang out and just welcome summer too, more than anything.
Oh my God.
So it's got to change. You got to get creative and also engage your clients. Ask them what they would like to do. We did a movie night and it was fantastic. We had a ton of people that showed up. But the biggest learning, which was a no-brainer, but now we know, is we were there standing, welcoming people at 4:30. I don't know, the movie's at 5, and everybody went and sat down, and we gave the free popcorn and all that. But then the movie was over, and we didn't have time to actually socialize much. Mm-hmm. So the learning there was we would have done a 6 p.m. movie, but we would have welcomed people at 4:30 or 5, and we would have done the bar or something like that where we could have just engaged before the movie. And it's always changing. You got to learn. It's learn as you go, but you got to do it. Just figure something out.
I love that you just adjust after you get a little bit of experience. Speaking of, when I was prepping for our conversation today, I'm like, I'm going to buy something in Charlotte one of these days so that I can get a free vanilla bean bottle that Joe does for all of his special clients, which I think is so phenomenal. Like it's those little touches.
Yeah, it's super cool. I wish I had one beside me to show you on the camera here, but yeah, I know you've seen them, and it's so simple. It's something literally that's like vanilla beans, and we use bourbon because I'm known for bourbon, and kind of clients meet me over bourbon and stuff. But anyways, and then we customize the label, we customize the seal on it, and we tie a bow around it, and we hand it out. And we were very intentional with vanilla, and I have to tell this because there's a million things we could give out, of course. I always had a general rule of thumb that outside of an event or something like that, I was never going to give away a promotional item that's like disposable or edible or
Like a
something. It's a
tumbler cup.
one
Yeah.
and done. It's like a water bottle. What are you going to do with that? And so what was cool about this is we gave a big enough bottle of vanilla to where people weren't going to run out for a year or so. But when every time they use it, they're thinking of our brand, and hopefully we've done right by them, and they're thinking positive thoughts every time they use it. So it's a constant reminder. So for agents out there that are looking of ways to stay connected, it literally, it was the time investment, it was the materials to build it out, and that was it. But it was every single time that they use it, they think of you. And then we have a little note that says, if you need a refill, give us a call. And by then, of course, we're bringing them a new bottle for the holidays anyway. So
that is just so cool. I love that idea
yeah.
so much. I want to switch gears to community. Building relationships is obviously something that you're really good at. And could you share some strategies when it came to things in your community? Obviously, you've been voted twice, 2 years in a row, and you're so loved by everybody. Was that intentional? Is there something that you do with the community that in your business every single year or every single month or every single quarter? Let's talk community.
Yeah, I think it ties back to our client first mentality. Like everything we do, we're loving on them, we're reaching out, we're just checking in. And so I think we're setting the tone so well with A, in the transaction, but B, as that relationship continues and evolves after the transaction. I think that is what has driven people to continue to be raving fans of ours, which we're so grateful for. This was extra special because I think a lot of industries have these awards that you can get, and honestly, many of them you pay for. A lot of people don't realize that. This was our biggest media outlet here in Charlotte, the Charlotte Observer, or one of the largest. They hold the content, they host the contest, and then it's a vote. It's a straight community vote. And I will be very transparent. There were some fantastic agents on that list, amazing teams that we were up against. We won the agent and the team award. And that just, we were so grateful. That was such a huge moment for us because it validates, it gives you that motivation, but also that pause of gratefulness that I think all of us need and we, long for. But so that award's super special to us. Yet winning the agent, the individual twice in a row, that was just huge. And
do you guys do anything for the community for you guys to get so known out there?
Yeah, it's outreach is what a lot of it comes down to. I think, again, it's loving on our clients, but it's also outreach. One of the biggest things, and many people that know me through Instagram know, I spotlight businesses, and it's all about experiences. I'm really big. I gave up Starbucks for 2 years, and it was not about anything about Starbucks. It was more of trying to change who I was focused on. And it was about getting closer to shop owners or people that are small business owners, because that's what I am. And it was the time frame that I was getting into entrepreneurship. And so I was like, what better way to share the same struggles and also celebrate the same successes or successes of others by getting out there and getting to know them. So we started this idea that all of our media production outside of home tours or whatever would be about experiences, and it would be tied to a owner of a company. So for example, we have our favorite Italian restaurant in the Charlotte area, Dolce, and I now know the owner. I call her, I text her, I say, hey, we're thinking about this. I check in on her. I knew that she went back home to Italy for a while, and I just shot a little text to her, how's life, things. And so those are just ways to connect with the community. But we made it selfless too. Like we wanted to be able to spotlight them. We wanted to be able to show not only the business owner, and there's been some amazing stories that have come from those business owners of just the origin of their business and how life has gone and where their passion is. But to connect to the community, it's now also about connecting the community to that business, being able to engage the community to say, hey, this is where we would go. And you think about it from a business perspective to the agents out there, we serve the same zip codes. Yeah. So why not take advantage of them pushing you pushing them, and you're serving the same clientele. So when they start to see a familiar face that, oh, this is Joe, the real estate agent, or this is Dolce, that mouth-watering Italian place, they also remember who connected, right? And so I think that's it means a lot. It gives you a lot of credibility, because if I can be a real estate agent that pointed somebody to the ultimate place to celebrate graduation or extended family dinner at an Italian restaurant, that they'll always remember that experience, I feel that we've done our job. And so there's many different ways we connect to the community. Lastly, I'll say, we haven't fully announced it because they're still waiting on our status through the state, but we've created a charity that's focused on literacy in North Carolina. And I'm very passionate about it. I was blessed to come up in a good family and have support and have motivation and push, but not everybody has that. And one of the things that stand out is the support around reading. And so I want to make sure that kids, or even adults to, as well, but have access. And so we created a charity that's going to be able to provide access for literacy to the communities that we serve. And again, just another way for us to connect. And most importantly, it's for the right reason.
That is so cool. And I will never forget when you first told me that you guys are going to be doing that. And I can't wait to see that all unfold. So, how do you
Yeah.
think when it comes to social media, how important is social media and creating community today with your business? And how do you get the social, like the online and offline, to actually, because you're such a connector, to actually connect together?
Yeah, hello. We live in a digital world, so everything social has taken off, right? For years, I still remember my MySpace account, but it's like, and it's continuing to evolve, right? Like what you and I and everyone else are experiencing today, like the bigs, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or X, like those are here today. But what's going to be in place 10 years from now? Now, some of them may be around, right? But I'm sure there's always going to be new technology. It's our responsibility as business owners, but also members of our community, to maximize the vehicles that our community has to communicate with us. From a business perspective, it's also maximizing your reach. I can go to an event today that has 100 people at it, make really good, authentic connections, but the maximum I'm going to be able to reach is 100 people in that moment. Now, it may lead to other stuff, sure, but in that moment, I can reach 100 people. But I can put together a really well thought out post that is about a local restaurant, and I can turn around and reach 39,000 people like that. And so at the end of the day, like, it's about thinking smarter and also aligning with where your clients are and meeting them where they want to be. And so another thing that ties to that is we don't ever force someone into a funnel and make them stay there as it relates to how they connect with us. So we may meet them on Instagram, but reality is after we have that buyer consultation and we establish that relationship, we're all about whatever vehicle of communication works best for them. We have to be able to flex, right? So we have one generation that wants to call about everything. We have another that doesn't want you to call them because they're only going to text with you. And so you have to be able to pivot and be on your feet when it comes to being there for the client and doing it with them as the number one, right? As far as like where we're going, I think for us, we're building up our Instagram and our YouTube because YouTube is internet based. So anytime you Google something, obviously you have that immediate connection through YouTube, vice versa. And then as far as like, how does that connect to the actual community, it's a combination of both. You can't be a social agent and never leave your home. Like, you have to do both. And so it's important, some of the things that we've talked about today, that agents do them, whether it's connecting with the community through business relationships, it's through charity, or through social media. You have to have a presence in all three to grow to the level that many people do want to be able to grow. But also, lastly, to be able to actually pivot to the needs of the market, because the market may be channeling a certain type of product. We may have a certain type of inventory that's hitting the market that maybe the people that are going to be the target audience for that are on Snapchat and they're not at the community events or whatever it may be, or vice versa. So you have to be really kind of this idea of omni-channel. You have to be ubiquitous in a bunch of different places.
So well said. You talk about the opportunity to flex, be flexible, and you also talked about branding. How do you ensure, because you have a team of people, and there's one way that probably Joe does it, but how do you ensure that anybody that comes in contact with your group, that they will experience almost the same thing, or they treat all the clients like how Joe would treat them?
Yes. So I appreciate everything you've said about me, and we're working hard to grow and be bigger. But reality is we still stay grounded, and I'm still connected to all aspects of my business. And I think number one, at the level that I'm at as a business owner, real estate agent, I'm afforded that ability to still do that. Now, one day, if that comes to where I have to be more mindful of my leverage and stuff, I get that. But right now, I try to stay as connected as possible to my business, to my team members, because I want to constantly be speaking the same language that I would expect them to continue to be a champion of, right? And then we have accountability. We pulse check that. What does the experience look like? If I make sure that part of our support that we're providing to our agents throughout the process, contract to close, is a lot of involvement. And so I have a second company that is one of our biggest services that we offer is transaction management. And so we essentially take the lifestyle of the transaction, and once a client has gone under contract and identified their dream home, we now involve a completely different group of individuals in addition to their agent and me and things like that. We involve a separate company that is going to be our transaction management partner. And there's systems in place with emails to introduce and all that. And so there is a life cycle where I'm involved, my assistant's involved, other leaders are involved, all the way through the process. And then it's staying close to our agents to ensure they're supported. That's how they're going to get out there and be speaking the same message, and the branding is going to show up consistent.
I love it. I love everything that you shared today. And as you look back, what's one thing you wish you would have known sooner, Joe?
It's two. So one is to take risks. And right now our biggest challenge is taking risk on talent and being more aggressive with that. And so I didn't take enough risk. I played it safe early on, had some good momentum, but I wish that I would have taken risks and taken a little page out of Kenny's book out in California and just moved with urgency and making a decision. That was the biggest thing, is just, if something's identified, just pulling the trigger. And right now we've played it safe. There was a lot of things that we just were like, let's think about it for a while. You got to take risk, and you got to do it very quickly.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
Yeah.
What are
So
you most excited about?
Yeah, I'm super excited about growth. Obviously, being a partner of ours, that we're growing our team, but we're doing it the right way. And we're looking for highly motivated talent in the Charlotte area right now, but really across the Carolinas. We're an expansion model, so we serve a really large area. And I think it's important to make sure that we're consistent in the talent that we're providing, so that experience that the client is getting is always going to remain consistent, whether you're in Charlotte, you're in Raleigh, or you're buying a beautiful investment property at the coast. Number one is talent and that growth. Number two is being able to grow our offerings and continuing to pivot to where we're staying ahead of the competition and what we offer our clients, so that we make it truly a one-stop shop for all things related to real estate, wealth growth, real estate investing. We've got some services that we've already started working on that we're going to be providing. And just getting that rolled out going into Q2 is going to be critical for us.
I love it. So where can people connect with you? If they want to connect with you, where would be the best place?
All social channels, it's Joe Carteret Official, and they can find me by just typing that in, and that's our username across the board.
I love it. And as we wrap up, there's always one question that I ask every single guest on this show is, what does Joe do to play bigger in business or in life?
Yeah, so I think a couple things. Number one is I try my best to always remain humble and remember where I came from. I started out in a completely different environment than I am in now. I had two extremely hardworking parents that I'm very grateful for. But I remember the days of things not always being as they are today. And so I always remember that I come from a small town. I bring that up a lot and I reflect on it a lot, because I think it's important to make sure my kids know that and know about that, and know the importance of how that ties to your life and being a humble person throughout your life. And then the second thing is always giving back. And not from a standpoint of just charity, but it's a combination. It's giving my time, always being available. I love when people come to me. It fuels me, as I said earlier. It's something that keeps me motivated in a very tough industry that we're in. But I love being able to help an agent that maybe just doesn't know what they don't know, right? Be able to help others that are struggling. But I always have a rule of thumb that they have to be willing to help themselves. I'm not going to be a charity myself. And I think it's important for all of us. And that's a discipline. It's an accountability, because you want people to want to be accountable. And I love to be able to do that. And I think it's important just to keep that in our personal lives and in our business.
So good. Well, Joe, I want to say thank you so much for being on our show, for your time. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you. And I'm just so excited for what's to come for you, your team, the Carolinas, expansion. And I'm excited to keep playing bigger with you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor, and I really appreciate everything that you do for us and for the industry.
Thank you.